Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We are going to continue on with this week's theme of your favorites of 2023. Today we're looking at the band Thantifaxath, which I still don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. I have not found a pronunciation yet from the band. The album that came out last year is Hive Mind Narcosis. We're going to be looking at the track Solar Witch from it. Let's dive in, see what they're bringing to the table today. It's so strange that it feels like free time given all the rhythms, but it's not. There's a consistent 4/4 throughout this. Oh, jeez. That moment of resolution. We didn't get it there. Last time though, it's nice. There we go. But it quickly morphs back into the tension of the rising dissonance, so it is a moment of clarity, of beauty. That's not it, is it? Yeah, so a 5. descending drone in the background. That was something. We're just gonna kick it off with the first thing I noticed about this track is second thing I noticed about this track. The first one was obviously the dissonance. You can't not feel that as soon as you open the door and the music hits you in the face. It's just, yeah. But the first positive thing that I noticed in here was shortly after that when I picked up on the rhythmic ideas. I really love the way that they go about building this. The back half of the track, starting about minute 3.5 or 4, I suppose, we shift over to a very straightforward 4/4, and then we move into our 5/4 that we end the track on. But for the opening 3 minutes or so, everything is in a fairly straightforward 4/4 consistent tempo. And normally it'd be like, okay, what's so special about that? But when you listen to it, it sounds not consistent tempo and not generally in 4/4 either. At first, I figured it was going to be in free time, and it does feel loose. And this helps deliver that free time feeling without actually moving into free time. They don't always play exactly on the beats. They're not mechanical or robotic about it. And even when everybody plays at the same time, there's a little bit of give and take based on when people play the note and when they release the note. It is a bit loose with the time, but it is still rather consistent with tempo and time signature. And so we have a little bit of this looseness that showcases a general lack of rigidity, which makes it difficult to feel out the time signature as well. But throughout most of this track, or throughout most of this section, we're also playing around with rhythmic ideas. The feeling of time is modified in so many places. Bum 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 ba da 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 dum bum 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 bum, and it feels like it's speeding up and slowing down and speeding up and slowing down. This is not achieved through tempo, at least not to my ears. It's modification of note length. We go from playing half notes to quarter notes to eighth notes and 16th notes, and then back down. We change how long each of the notes are and how quickly or how long it takes us to shift to the next note. But there is also a really important part in here. It's irregular lengths of notes. If we had just stuck with quarter notes, eighth notes, and 16th notes, you'd really be able to feel the rigidity of it, because the thing is, with all those notes, you're dealing with specifically doubling and halving of your length. It has a very specific rigidity to it that doesn't feel as smooth and fluid as what they achieved, and that's because they used different types of subdivisions. Rather than just doubling or halving the length of a note, they played around with other things like triplets, putting three notes into a single beat, or dotted notes, which is 1.5 length. So if a quarter note is the beat, this would be a beat and a half, a dotted quarter note. It would not surprise me to look at the sheet music and find out that they have nested tuplets as well. A triplet, as I mentioned, is 3 notes in one beat, but that's just the norm. That's what we have a name for it, but you can put a 4 tuplet or a 5 tuplet or 13 tuplet, as many notes as you want to play within a beat as you want. And we have notation for that. We have a term for it. You can also put a dot on any of these notes as well and increase its length by an additional half. And so when we play around with all of this, we can achieve a granularity to rhythmic diversity. And as I mentioned, I don't think I'd be surprised to look at sheet music for this, or, their tabs, whatever, however they go about writing it, if they write it. Some bands are purely memorization, it's all rote for them. But yeah, it would not surprise me to find a lot of granularity of rhythmic ideas there in order to keep the tempo and time signature consistent. I chose to look at the lowest tempo moments as the de facto beat, which is difficult to keep track of. I think some of our slowest parts are about 50 beats per minute, and that's really difficult to keep consistent. But regardless, I was fairly consistent if I stuck with that tempo. I think I moved my body a few times around the 1 minute mark when I was trying to figure this out. You should be able to see some visual cues of me attempting to figure out what is going on in here. And if you follow that and you count it out, you should be able to count up to 4 and then up to 8. And that's typically where we found a repetition of a phrase. So we're probably looking at 2-bar phrases here of 4/4. 4 beats per bar, 2 bars per phrase, 8 beats per phrase. It is wild, then, to think that they're keeping this internal tempo rather consistent with each other. Like I said, it's a little loose as far as when everybody, like if everybody decides to come in on beat 1 of a bar, it's not everybody's perfectly on the beat. Someone comes in a little early, someone comes in a little late, whatever. It's fine because it adds to the atmosphere. It adds to that irregularity. It adds to the fact that it doesn't feel like everyone is actually staying within a time frame, and that it's all additive. It all works together to create this atmosphere. Where was I going with it? I don't remember why I got on that topic. So bad. Oh man. But yeah, just oh yeah. What I was saying is you can feel it out, you can suss it out, you can find that slower 4/4, and if you speed that up, you double time it, you can find a faster 4/4 in there as well. Everybody is together, even though they sound like they're not, even though it sounds like the tempo is constantly in flux. Generally speaking, it probably isn't. And I really love the way that they manipulate the composition to create everything that was in that opening part. Now, after this, as I said, we kind of we explored sections that were a bit more straightforward as far as rhythm and tempo were concerned. We have a 4/4 where it's very clear we're in 4/4, and then a 5/4 that's again rather clear. I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that 4/4. My math was getting weird. I knew we were just under 3 beats per bar, and for some reason I was like, oh yeah, just under 3, so that would be 7. You double it and then come one down. I don't know why I doubled it to 8 and then came one down to 7. I don't know. I should have picked up the 5 real quick, and I'm just going to attribute it to me being a bit tired this morning, I think. But yes, it's a very straightforward 5/4 there. I conducted it out for you guys, and it's an interesting idea. But it's also an inverse. I don't know if anyone picked this up. In fact, I just picked it up. I don't know why it took me this long. I think I need to take a little breather before I start my next reaction, because I'm obviously not as quick on the uptake with this as I should be. If our first half of the track is playfulness, fluidity of time feel, things speed up and slow down, and it feels like it just squashes and stretches time in general, this is a playfulness and a fluidity of pitch. There's so many moments in here where we don't have a single note followed by another pitch. at least not in any sort of division of pitch that we tend to utilize, which in the West and the electric guitars they're probably using are tuned to 12 equal notes. Here we have granularity of pitch. It's not C and then C sharp and then D. It's C and C sharp and a D, and it's this gradual move. Those were not the right pitches. I'm terrible at singing on pitch. I just wanted to show the granularity of pitch. Instead of just going up by steps, we rise up gradually or fall down gradually. This is all over the place in the back half. And it makes me wonder if I missed something in that 45-second middle section where they also played with granularity of something, now that I'm recognizing this theme in the track. Regardless, this section is... I'm fine with granularity at time. I just gushed about how much I loved what they were doing there. I'm not as big a fan of granularity of pitch. Primarily because of the way they specifically used it in here, which is, of course, for tension and dissonance. Now, I will say that I think they did a fantastic job of creating an atmosphere in all of this track through their heavy use of dissonance, of tension in note intervals, playing two or more notes that just sound gritty and crunchy together, and it doesn't have that gorgeous beauty of consonant harmony. This is a different type of beauty. If you find this work to be gorgeous, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because I'd be lying. But it is not my cup of tea. I find this to be very, very disgusting, anxious sound throughout. And the anxiety comes twofold on this. First of all, we have the raw harmonies. Two pitches that are creating a ton of tension. Their wavelengths are not lining up at all. They're clashing. It's creating a lot of warbly variance in their sound, and they're rising up in pitch together, consistently creating this tension of infinite scalability. I don't know what it is about it that makes it so tense. It is just, it's like you hit a pitch and then you keep going up and you keep going up, and it feels like it'll just never stop, and it keeps that's what it is. It's rising tension. The pitch just keeps going up. It gets higher and higher and higher and higher and higher and higher, and it just makes, even like physically, I'm explaining it and my body naturally has like this tightening element to it. It's just, it is a very uncomfortable end to this song. But I do want to point out that I think they do some really great things with it. Aside from just the core technique there is a moment every once in a while where they rise in pitch, like this, okay? We have a higher pitch and a lower pitch, but they're not rising consistently. The gap between them is closing as they rise, and eventually they hit a higher note at the same time, and there's this really gorgeous moment of calm. It doesn't last long, but it was always something I was looking forward to. I like that moment. I don't know what it means. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was this grand story I felt while listening to it. Honestly, the whole time I just felt really anxious and tense. But I like those moments. They could represent a lot of things, but they chose in a song that is gnarly and fluid and just tough to listen to create these few pockets, couple sections, or sorry, couple seconds each of just calm, of unity, harmony. Those were nice. They stood out to me. Against all the other grit, we get these moments of coming together. But I also really enjoyed their use of parallelism here. At the end of the track, I noticed a drone off on the right side. It was a higher pitch and it was ascending downward. Again, not by pitches themselves, but just gradually hitting all the microtones between the pitches we use in Western music. Just slowly coming down that pitch. What's really cool is there was another guitar on the same side, I think, hitting specific pitches, descending in thirds. Bum, 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 bum. So generally it's a downward movement, but you come down and then you hit a middle note and then you jump down a lot, and then you hit a middle note and then you jump down a lot, you hit a middle note. There are specific intervals in there. You're not just going down to a random point and then coming back up a little bit. You're hitting specific notes in order to achieve this feeling. It is called descending thirds or ascending thirds if you're going in the other direction. But generally, you need to know that it comes down a bit, comes up a little bit, comes down a bit, comes up a little bit. It is doing this in time with our fluid descent. They're generally together, both moving in the same direction and both generally around the same pitch. They play around with this fluctuating element of dissonance in some points and then consonant in other points. There's a duality to it, but a parallelism to it, like a mirror. Both moving in the same direction, but on two different planes. It's a really interesting idea, and we heard a little bit of this throughout the section, going up at times as well. One instrument playing the traditional notes that we use on the guitar, and the other one being gradual movements. But I really like that descending thirds part at the end because it does showcase both consonance and dissonance as, I don't know, mirror parallelism stuff going on. Again, I don't know what it means. I know what I heard. I guess that's going to be it for my analysis here. Overall, I didn't enjoy this song. But as usual, there's cool things to glean from most art, something to learn from it and appreciate, if nothing else. And there are certainly some cool moments in here that hopefully y'all learned something out of. I guess let's hit some lyrics. I'm a little worried about that, given how gnarly the music is. Lyrics tend to follow along with that. But I'm not one to back down from a challenge, I suppose, so let's see what they're singing about. Alright, so this is the opening track of this album. I appreciate that. There's no subversion of anything, I don't think. They kick off with a very abrasive song. It is a fantastic vibe check. If I put this album on, this is what started. I'm like, you know what? Thank you guys for telling me what you're all about. Uh, uh, I'm respectfully ducking out on this. I can really appreciate a band who does that. Lyrically, I have no idea what's going on here. There's elements of giving up, pain, suffering, kind of the stuff I expected out of a sound like this. But there seems to be a positive element to it. I'm not entirely sure. It talks about the solar witch. She was pulled kicking and screaming from a world of entropy, and now she's here, awakening to turn your dreams to salt, to prove that joy and suffering are inseparable. The final stanza says, surrender to the persistent circling of wolves, starved to wake you up in a world of hungry ghosts. I'm trying to figure out where the joy part comes, because that just sounds like suffering. That is terrible. Just allow yourself to be devoured by these wolves and hungry ghosts. That sounds like suffering, but earlier they mentioned that joy and suffering is inseparable. Where does the joy come from this? I don't know. The stanza just before this, though, evokes a kind of holiness to it all, a ritual, a spiritual element to this. It says, "Let your story drown, let your pain be decaying stars, let your limbs be her roots, your dying breath, her words. Your body is a hollow vessel for dirt and stone." And it's possible that this is what they mean when they say joy and suffering are intertwined, that through this suffering you will find the joy of being a vessel for the solar witch. It speaks about physical, corporeal pain tied with a spiritual joy and feeling of accomplishment, of completion. I think. I'm grasping a little bit at straws here, I think, but that's what I'm pulling out of it. I kind of wonder what the rest of the album's like. We do have a track on here called Hungry Ghosts, tying back to one of the lines in here. Oh, and Lost Wisdom of Wolves is track 3, so yeah, we're seeing some similarities, some recurring themes and imagery, at least. I wonder if everything is connected, if not by some overarching story, but just theme, topics, stuff like that. I don't know. It's a bit too heavy for me to get into, so I'll just have to rely on some of y'all to tell me if the rest of this album is lyrically interesting or not. Those are my thoughts. Thantifaxath's Solar Witch. Let me know what you thought of this track. If there was anything that stood out to you, anything you'd like to add on to what I said or correct me on, your thoughts, opinions, perspectives, put all that stuff down in the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you can find a link to Linktree, which takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. We do have a special selection coming up. Otherwise, I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of your favorites of 2023. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.